Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to tackle something that I bet keeps you up at night just as much as it does me projecting at your limit. I mean, we all dream of setting those crazy hard
Oh,
climbs,
that's true.
But what about all the work that goes into it before we even get to clip the chains? To
Right.
help us unlock the secrets of the projecting game, I've got professional climber and coach Claudia here with us today. Claudia, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Claudia, you've been setting hard climbs for what seems like forever. Is it really as simple as just try harder?
Oh, it's only ever that easy. We'd all be crushing it, wouldn't we? The truth is, sending a project is rarely a straight line.
Hmm.
It's messy, it's emotional, and sometimes it feels like, trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded.
Yeah.
But that's also what makes it so rewarding.
I hear you. It's so easy to get fixated on that end goal of clipping the chains. I know, I definitely fall into that trap.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating to me is how much of projecting is actually about the process, the journey, rather than the destination.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's like you're saying, hey, Brian, let's obsess over something we have almost zero control over right now.
Right.
It's a recipe for frustration. But when you shift your focus to the process, the problem solving, the little victories, the learning, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
You start enjoying the climb even when you're not sending. And you build this resilience that helps you push through those inevitable plateaus.
I'm already feeling more zen just thinking about it. So for those of us ready to dive headfirst into our next project, where do we even begin with this whole process-oriented approach?
Well, before you even tie in, I've got 3 non-negotiables.
Right.
Think of them as your pre-flight check. Like making sure you actually have your climbing shoes before you leave the house.
Here them. I'm always down for a good checklist.
Number 1, have a plan. Stan, it sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many climbers just launch themselves at a project without any strategy. Do your homework, watch beta videos, suss out the crux sections, and figure out where you might need to rest. You're not just blindly throwing yourself at the wall, you're playing chess with it.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
I know I've been guilty of just going for it without thinking things through, and it rarely ends well.
Right. It's like trying to bake a cake without a recipe. You might end up with something edible, but it's probably not going to be pretty.
All right, so plan in place. What's the next pre-flight check?
Number 2, make sure the climb is in tip-top shape. Think Goldilocks here. Are the holds clean? Is the temperature just right? Are you climbing in the shade or baking in the sun? We're talking about performance optimization here. People don't sabotage yourself before you even start.
So like choosing the right tool for the job, no point in adding extra difficulty when you're already pushing your limits right.
Exactly. You wouldn't show up to a marathon wearing flip-flops, would you?
Definitely not. Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. What's the final check?
This one's all about are you ready to rumble? Did you get enough sleep? Are you hydrated like a desert wanderer finding an oasis? And most importantly, is your head in the game?
The mental game, I feel like that's where I personally unravel on hard projects.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's something I've worked on a lot throughout my climbing career. You can be the strongest climber out there, but if your mind's not right, it's game over.
So much of it is about confidence, right? Believing that you can actually do the climb. Have there been times when you've walked away from a project simply because you weren't feeling it mentally?
More times than I can count. And you know what? I don't see it as a failure sometimes. Walking away is the smartest move. It's about recognizing when you're not in the right headspace and giving yourself permission to come back to it when you are.
That's a powerful perspective. I think a lot of us, myself included, feel like we have to push through no matter what, even when our gut is telling us to take a step back.
Listen to your gut, my friend. It usually knows what's up. All right, so you've got your plan, the conditions are prime, and your head's screwed on straight time to get to work on those moves. So you're standing at the base of your project, ready to go, but instead of just jumping on and flailing around, I want you to channel your inner detective. It's time to break down those moves like Sherlock Holmes cracking a case.
Ooh, I love a good mystery.
Yeah.
So where do we start our investigation?
I've got a framework that helps me and my students dissect those seemingly impossible sequences. I call it here, there, and in between.
Okay, lay it on me, Detective Claudia.
So here is your starting position. We're talking about body positioning, foot placement, grip choice. Is everything dialed in? Can you hold this position comfortably and generate movement from it? Because if your foundation is shaky, the whole structure is going to crumble.
That makes total sense. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand.
Exactly. And then we have there, which represents the ending position, how you stick the move and stabilize after you make it. Where are your feet? What are your counter pressure points? Are you cutting feet matching hands, flagging like a pro? It's all about that perfect finish.
I'm starting to realize that I often don't think enough about the ending position.
Mm.
I'm so focused on just getting to the hold that I forget about what comes next.
It's a common mistake. Climbers get so fixated on that big dyno or that crazy reach that they haven't figured out how to actually control the movement and stick the hold,
Right.
you know?
All right, here and there make perfect sense, but what about the in-between? That seems like where the real magic and maybe the most frustration
Oh,
happens.
absolutely. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of the movement itself. I use a technique called scaling to help break things down. You gradually increase the difficulty, kind of like leveling up in a video game.
Okay, walk me through how that
Yeah.
works.
Let's say there's a tricky reach between two holds. You might start by just touching the target hold, then grabbing and releasing it quickly. Then you work on holding it for a split second, then 2 seconds, then 5 seconds. Eventually, you'll build the strength and coordination to latch it smoothly.
I can see how that would help build confidence too.
Yeah.
You're essentially proving to yourself that you can do the move one small step at a time.
Exactly. And along the way, don't be afraid to experiment with different techniques. Think about your grip choice. Are you crimping, pinching, palming? What about your hip positioning? And are you using your body weight efficiently to create momentum? It's all about finding what works best for you and your unique climbing style.
So it's not just about brute strength, it's about finesse and technique.
You got it. Sometimes the smallest adjustment can make a world of difference. I had a student who was struggling with a dynamic move, and we tried everything, different beta, different footwork, even chanting positive affirmations.
Okay, I've got to hear this. Did the chanting work?
Well, let's just say it didn't hurt. But what finally clicked was adjusting her hip position just slightly. Suddenly, the move that seemed impossible became fluid and effortless. It was an aha moment for both of us.
Those aha moments are the best. It's like solving a puzzle within a puzzle. Which reminds me of something you said earlier about finding motivation in progress, not just in sending. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Oh, that's a big one. Because if your only source of motivation is clipping the chains you're setting yourself up for, a world of hurt projecting can be a long, winding road. And if you're only celebrating when you reach the destination, you're going to miss out on all the amazing scenery along the way.
I know for me, those days when I get laser focused on sending are usually my worst sessions. But when I'm just playing around, experimenting, and focusing on the process, I always end up having more fun and making more progress.
That's because you're taking the pressure off and allowing yourself to be present in the moment. And when you're present, that's when the breakthroughs happen.
So it's about finding joy in those small victories, figuring out a tricky sequence, linking a tough section, or even just feeling stronger and more confident on the wall.
Exactly. Each small win is a step closer to your ultimate goal.
So let's say we've worked all the moves we've had are aha moments, but we still haven't linked the entire climb. This is where I personally start to struggle. The pressure builds. That inner critic starts whispering doubts in my ear, and suddenly I'm questioning everything. How do you help your students navigate this challenging phase?
That inner critic, we all have one, and it can be a real pain in the well. It's that voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you'll never send this climb.
Mine likes to chime in with a lovely chorus of, why are you even trying this? Just go home and eat cookies.
Yeah, they absolutely are. It's like you're signing up for a long-distance relationship with the climb. There will be times when you question your sanity, times when you want to throw in the towel, but if you can embrace the journey, the ups and downs, the breakthroughs and the setbacks, that's where the real growth happens.
I love that analogy. It's not about a quick fling. It's about building a deep connection with the climb and with yourself.
Exactly. And just like in any good relationship, communication is key. You need to listen to your body, understand its limits, and be willing to adapt your approach as needed.
So how do we stay motivated and on track when the going gets tough, when we're feeling those inevitable doubts creeping in?
One thing that really helps me is breaking the project down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Instead of focusing on sending the whole thing, focus on linking a specific section or dialing in a particular move. It's like you're creating a series of mini goals along the way, each one a stepping stone to the summit.
It's like eating an elephant one bite at a time.
Uh-huh. Exactly. And each time you achieve one of those mini goals, celebrate it. It doesn't have to be anything big, a fist pump, a little dance, a mental high five. Those small victories help keep you motivated and build momentum.
I can see how that would help shift your focus from what you haven't accomplished to what you have.
Absolutely. And remember, it's okay to take breaks too. Step away from the project for a while, climb something else, try a different style. Sometimes a fresh perspective is all you need to break through a plateau.
So it's not about beating your head against the wall until you break through. It's about finding that balance between persistence and knowing when to step back and recharge.
Exactly. Projecting at your limit is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about pacing yourself, listening to your body, and staying mentally strong.
This has been such an insightful conversation, Claudia. You've given our listeners so much to think about and so many practical tools to take their projecting to the next level. Before we wrap things up, do you have any final words of wisdom for those who might be feeling a little lost or discouraged on their climbing journey?
Remember that comparison is the thief of joy. Focus on your own journey, your own progress, and celebrate your unique strengths. And most importantly, have fun. Climbing is an incredible sport that challenges us physically, mentally, and emotionally. Embrace the journey, savor those moments of triumph, and learn from those inevitable stumbles.
Beautifully said, Claudia. It's a reminder that climbing is not just about reaching the top. It's about the process, the community, the personal growth, and the sheer joy of moving on rock over. Claudia, thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
The pleasure was all mine.
All right, listeners, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the importance of a process-oriented mindset to the power of positive self-talk and celebrating those small wins. But here's a final thought-provoking question to leave you with. If projecting is a long-distance relationship with a climb, what are the love languages you can use to nurture that connection and deepen your bond? Think about the ways you can show up for yourself, for the climb, and for the process. Until next time, keep climbing, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.